Most people grow up believing one comforting idea, that somewhere in this world there are people who will always stand beside them, protect them, and place their interests above everything else. It is a beautiful belief, but beauty and truth are not always the same. The world does not operate on promises. It operates on human nature. Human nature is far more complicated than the stories we tell ourselves. Every person carries dreams, fears, ambitions, insecurities, and desires that constantly compete for attention. When those desires collide with yours, self-interest almost always wins. This is not because people are evil. It is because survival, status, comfort, and opportunity have always driven human behavior. The sooner you understand this reality, the sooner you stop living in disappointment and start living with clarity. Many people spend years expecting loyalty from those who have never truly earned the right to receive their trust. They mistake laughter for loyalty, kindness for commitment, and shared memories for permanent bonds. They assume that because someone was there during good times, that person will remain when circumstances change. But life has a way of revealing what words never could. Success changes people. Failure changes people. Money changes people. Power changes people. Even time changes people. The person who once celebrated your victories may quietly resent them tomorrow. The person who promised never to leave may disappear when helping you becomes inconvenient. Reality does not ask permission before exposing the truth. Observe people's actions carefully. Words are cheap because they cost nothing. Anyone can promise forever when life is easy. Anyone can claim loyalty when there is nothing to lose. Character is revealed only when sacrifice becomes necessary. When someone must choose between their comfort and your well-being, that is when you discover what you truly mean to them. Most people fail this test, not because they plan to betray you, but because their own interests quietly become more important than yours. This understanding should not make you bitter. Bitterness blinds judgment. Instead, let it make you aware. Awareness is one of the greatest forms of power. A person who understands human nature is rarely surprised by it. They appreciate kindness, but never depend on it. They enjoy companionship without confusing it with certainty. They value relationships while recognizing that every relationship has limits. One of the greatest mistakes people make is believing that time automatically creates loyalty. They think that because they have known someone for 10 years, that person would never turn against them. Time alone proves nothing. Habits can last for decades while trust quietly disappears underneath them. Relationships often continue not because they are strong, but because circumstances remain unchanged. The moment circumstances shift, hidden motives begin to surface. History repeats this lesson endlessly. Kingdoms have fallen because trusted advisors chose ambition over loyalty. Businesses have collapsed because partners valued profit over friendship. Families have been divided over inheritance. Lifelong friends have become strangers over success, jealousy, or pride. Human nature has remained remarkably consistent throughout history. Technology changes, fashion changes, society changes, but the desire for advantage rarely disappears. The hardest truth to accept is that people usually see the world through the lens of their own needs. Even when they care about you, they often interpret situations according to how those situations affect them. This is not always selfishness in the cruel sense. It is simply the way most minds operate. Every individual wakes up carrying their own burdens, chasing their own goals, and protecting their own future. Expecting someone else to consistently place your interests above theirs creates expectations that reality struggles to fulfill. Notice how quickly relationships shift when your value changes. While you are useful, opportunities appear, invitations arrive, compliments become frequent, calls are returned immediately. But when your usefulness fades, silence often follows. This can feel painful until you realize it has always been happening. You simply refuse to see it because hope was louder than observation. Hope is valuable when it inspires action, becomes dangerous when it replaces perception. Many people ignore warning signs because they desperately want a relationship to be genuine. They excuse repeated disrespect. They overlook broken promises. They rationalize obvious manipulation. Deep down, they know something is wrong, but admitting the truth would force them to let go of an illusion they have invested years believing. Life rewards those who see clearly rather than those who merely wish for the best. Seeing clearly means accepting that every person has limits. Every person's loyalty has conditions, even if those conditions are invisible at first. Conditions involve fear. Others involve money, reputation, opportunity, or survival. The conditions may never appear, but that does not mean they do not exist. This realization does not mean genuine loyalty is impossible. It means genuine loyalty is extremely rare and must be earned through consistent actions over long periods, not assumed because of emotional words. Trust should be built slowly, tested carefully, and protected wisely. The strongest relationships are not created by blind faith. They are created by mutual respect, honesty, and repeated demonstrations of character. You must also examine yourself honestly. Ask whether you have expected too much from others while expecting too little from yourself. Have you placed your emotional stability in someone else's hands? Have you depended on another person's approval to feel valuable? If the answer is yes, then your greatest weakness is not their behavior. It is your dependence. Dependence gives other people power they never deserve to have. Freedom begins when your peace no longer depends on another person's consistency. Imagine waking up without needing constant reassurance. Imagine pursuing your goals whether others support them or not. Imagine remaining calm whether people praise you today or criticize you tomorrow. That is real strength. Strength is not forcing people to stay. Strength is becoming so emotionally independent that their decisions no longer control your direction. Learn to become an observer of behavior instead of a collector of promises. Watch how people act when they are under pressure. Notice how they treat those who cannot benefit them. Pay attention to whether they celebrate your victories or quietly compete with them. Observe whether they keep small commitments before trusting them with larger ones. Patterns reveal character far more accurately than speeches ever will. There is another illusion that traps many people. They believe loyalty should be unconditional because they themselves are loyal. But your standards are not automatically shared by others. Just because you would sacrifice for someone does not mean they would sacrifice for you. Never assume that your heart reflects theirs. Respect differences instead of denying them. The world becomes less confusing when you stop asking why people changed and begin asking whether you ever truly knew them. Often, they did not change at all. Circumstances simply revealed the parts of them that comfort had been hiding. Pressure exposes character the way fire reveals the strength of steel. Difficult moments do not invent people's priorities. They uncover them. Accepting this truth may feel uncomfortable at first because it challenges beliefs that have provided emotional comfort for years. Yet truth has always been more valuable than comfort. Comfort can keep you asleep. Truth teaches you how to protect yourself. It teaches you to trust wisely instead of blindly. It teaches you to appreciate people without surrendering your independence. Most importantly, it teaches you that your greatest source of security should never be another person's promise. It should be your own judgment, discipline, and ability to stand firmly on your own feet. When you finally understand this, stop searching for someone to rescue you from disappointment. You stop expecting perfection from imperfect people. You stop confusing friendliness with loyalty and attention with commitment. Instead, you develop something far more valuable than blind trust. You develop clear vision. And a person who sees human nature clearly is far harder to manipulate, far harder to deceive, and far more capable of building relationships based not on comforting illusions, but on reality itself. Power does not disappear in a single dramatic moment. It leaves quietly, one compromise at a time. The first time you ignore your own values just to keep someone happy, you surrender a piece of it. The first time you chase someone's approval instead of respecting your own judgment, you surrender a little more. Eventually, You wake up and realize your emotions are no longer under your control. They are controlled by someone else's attention, opinions, and decisions. This is the hidden cost of emotional dependence. It rarely announces itself, grows silently until your happiness depends on whether another person chooses to acknowledge your existence. Most people misunderstand respect. They believe respect is earned by being endlessly available, endlessly agreeable, endlessly forgiving. They believe that if they give enough, sacrifice enough, and tolerate enough, others will finally recognize their worth. But human nature often responds differently. What comes too easily is rarely valued. Yes. What is constantly available is frequently taken for granted. When people realize you have no boundaries, they stop respecting your limits because you have already shown them that you have none. Think about the people who command quiet authority. They do not beg for attention. They do not chase validation. They do not constantly explain themselves. They speak when necessary, remain silent when appropriate, and walk away when their dignity is threatened. Their confidence does not come from proving themselves to everyone they meet. It comes from knowing their value without requiring constant confirmation from others. Desperate pursuit of approval creates an invisible imbalance in every relationship. The person who needs the relationship the most usually has the least power within it. The moment your peace depends on someone staying, replying, agreeing, or approving, you have surrendered control of your emotional world. Now your mood rises and falls according to another person's choices. They may not even realize they possess this influence, but they do. You handed it to them the moment you made your self-worth dependent on their acceptance. There is a reason confident people appear attractive. It is not because they are perfect. It is because they are complete within themselves. Enjoy companionship, but they are not imprisoned by it. They appreciate love without begging for it. They value friendship without fearing solitude. This quiet independence creates a presence that cannot be manufactured through manipulation or performance. It is built through self-respect. Many people spend years trying to become more likable. They study how to impress others, how to avoid conflict, how to say yes more often, and how to make everyone comfortable. Yet the more they chase acceptance, the further respect moves away. Why? Because respect cannot grow where authenticity has disappeared. When people sense that every opinion you express is designed to please them, they stop seeing you as someone with conviction. They begin seeing you as someone who simply adapts to avoid rejection. Boundaries are often misunderstood as walls that keep people out. In reality, boundaries are filters that reveal who deserves to stay. The people who genuinely respect you will also respect your limits. Those who become angry whenever you protect your time, your energy, or your peace are often revealing that they benefited from your lack of boundaries. Their disappointment says more about their expectations than your decisions. One of the most powerful words in any language is no, yet it is also one of the most difficult words for many people to speak. Why? Because they fear disappointing others. They fear being disliked. They fear losing relationships. Every time you say yes while your heart is screaming no, you send yourself a dangerous message. You tell yourself that other people's comfort matters more than your own well-being. Over time, this habit slowly destroys confidence because confidence cannot exist where self-betrayal has become normal. Notice how some individuals constantly seek reassurance. They ask whether people still like them. They overthink every conversation. They analyze every delayed message. They replay every interaction, searching for hidden meaning. Their lives become emotional prisons because their attention is permanently directed outward instead of inward. They have forgotten that confidence is not built by receiving endless approval. It is built by surviving without needing it. The strongest people understand a simple principle. Attention is valuable, and therefore it should never be given away carelessly. Every minute spent chasing someone who ignores you is a minute stolen from improving yourself. Every ounce of energy invested in convincing someone of your worth is energy that could have been used to actually increase your worth. Successful individuals understand this distinction. They focus less on appearing valuable and more on becoming valuable. Instead of asking, how do I make people respect me? Ask a different question. Ask this: what kind of person naturally earns respect? The answer is surprisingly simple. A person who keeps promises to themselves. A person who remains calm under pressure. A person who refuses to compromise their principles for temporary acceptance. A person who continues growing, whether others applaud or criticize them. Respect follows consistency far more often than popularity. You cannot control how people perceive you. Some will admire your discipline. Others will resent it. Some will celebrate your success. Others will secretly hope for your failure. Trying to manage everyone's opinion is an impossible mission that drains both energy and confidence. The wiser approach is to manage your own character. Character remains under your control even when opinions do not. Many relationships become unhealthy because one person fears losing the other more than they value themselves. Fear creates unhealthy compromises. It encourages silence when honesty is necessary. It encourages tolerance when boundaries should be enforced. It encourages pursuit when dignity should demand distance. Eventually, the relationship survives, but self-respect quietly disappears. Self-respect is the foundation upon which every healthy relationship is built. Without it, affection becomes dependency, kindness becomes submission, patience becomes weakness, generosity becomes exploitation. People often believe love requires endless sacrifice, but genuine connection cannot thrive where one person's identity is constantly shrinking to satisfy another's expectations. There will always be people who misunderstand your boundaries. Some will accuse you of changing because you no longer tolerate behavior you once accepted. Others will call you selfish because you finally prioritize your own well-being. Do not confuse their discomfort with your failure. Growth always disappoints those who benefited from your insecurity. Never chase people who repeatedly demonstrate that your presence is optional to them. Chasing does not create affection. It creates imbalance. It communicates that you are willing to lower your standards simply to avoid being alone. Ironically, the harder you pursue someone who continually withdraws, the less they value your effort. Human nature often respects what has standards more than what has desperation. Real confidence is quiet. It does not announce itself. It does not compete for attention. It simply exists. It allows you to walk away from disrespect without making a scene. It allows you to remain patient without becoming passive. It allows you to stand alone without feeling lonely. Most importantly, it reminds you that your value is determined by your character, your discipline, and your actions, not by another person's temporary opinion. The day you stop seeking permission to believe in yourself is the day your power begins to return. You no longer measure your worth by who calls, who stays, who praises you, or who approves of your choices. Instead, you measure it by your integrity, your growth, and your ability to remain true to yourself even when no one is watching. That is the kind of strength people cannot manipulate. That is the kind of presence that commands genuine respect. And once you possess that kind of inner authority, you no longer need to chase anyone, because your life itself becomes proof of your value. There comes a moment in every person's life when the mask falls. It rarely happens during moments of comfort. It happens during hardship, success, failure, or change. It is in these moments that people reveal who they truly are. The person you trusted suddenly chooses convenience over loyalty. The friend who celebrated your victories begins to envy them. The partner who promised forever walks away when life becomes difficult. In that instant, you feel betrayed. But what if betrayal is not the beginning of the truth? What if it is simply the moment the truth finally becomes impossible to ignore? Most people spend years asking the wrong question. They ask, why did this happen to me? When the better question is, what is this trying to teach me? Pain becomes unbearable only when it serves no purpose. But when pain becomes a lesson, it transforms into wisdom. The strongest individuals are not those who never experience betrayal. They are the ones who refuse to waste it. Betrayal has existed since the beginning of human history. Kingdoms have been destroyed because trusted allies changed sides. Great leaders have fallen because those closest to them desired power more than loyalty. Families have been divided over wealth. Business partners have become enemies over ambition. Every generation believes it will somehow escape this reality, yet every generation learns the same lesson. Human nature has never promised perfect loyalty. It has only promised that people will eventually reveal their priorities. The greatest mistake you can make after betrayal is believing that everyone is the same. The second greatest mistake is believing that the person who betrayed you was different from who they actually were. Most betrayals do not create a new personality. They expose an existing one. The signs were often present long before the final act. You simply ignored them because hope was louder than observation. Think back to every major disappointment in your life. Were there moments when your instincts warned you? Were there promises that sounded too perfect? Were there small lies that you chose to forgive? Were there moments of disrespect that you explained away because you wanted peace? Human intuition often notices danger long before the conscious mind accepts it. Unfortunately, emotions have a remarkable ability to silence wisdom. We convince ourselves that people will change because we desperately want them to. The world has taught many people to fear betrayal as though it is the worst thing that can happen. But there is something far worse. Living your entire life surrounded by illusions is far more dangerous than having one painful truth revealed. Betrayal hurts because it destroys a fantasy. It forces you to see people as they are, instead of as you imagine them to be. The pain is real, but so is the clarity that follows. Never allow betrayal to convince you that your life is over. Some of the strongest transformations begin with disappointment. A broken illusion creates space for stronger judgment. Every painful experience contains valuable information. It teaches you what manipulation looks like. It teaches you which behaviors should never be ignored again. It teaches you the importance of patience before trust. It teaches you that character is measured over time, not through emotional declarations. Many people respond to betrayal with revenge. They become obsessed with making the other person suffer. They replay every conversation, imagine every possible confrontation, spend years hoping life will punish those who hurt them. But revenge creates an invisible prison. While the other person continues living, you remain emotionally chained to the event. Your future becomes controlled by your past. Greatest victory is not making someone regret losing you. The greatest victory is reaching a point where their actions no longer control your emotions. There is a hidden danger after betrayal. It whispers that you should never trust anyone again. At first, this sounds like wisdom. In reality, it is fear disguised as intelligence. Refusing to trust anyone is not strength. It is surrender. Strength is learning to trust wisely instead of blindly. Wisdom is not closing every door. Wisdom is learning which doors deserve to remain closed and which deserve to remain open. Every disappointment sharpens your ability to recognize patterns. Perhaps you notice how certain people only appear when they need something. Perhaps you begin recognizing manipulation hidden beneath compliments. Perhaps you learn that excessive charm often hides selfish intentions. These lessons are expensive, but they are valuable. The tuition is emotional pain. The reward is better judgment for the rest of your life. Do not measure your life by the number of people who stayed. Measure it by the quality of the lessons you gained from those who left. Sometimes losing one dishonest person creates room for 10 genuine opportunities. Sometimes the relationship you desperately wanted to save was the very thing preventing your growth. The ending that once felt like destruction later reveals itself as protection. One of the most dangerous habits after betrayal is blaming yourself for another person's character. You begin asking endless questions. What did I do wrong? Why wasn't I enough? How could I have prevented this? While self-reflection is healthy, taking responsibility for someone else's choices is not. Their decision reflects their values, not your worth. Your responsibility is to learn from the experience, not to carry guilt that belongs to someone else. Remember that disappointment often arrives as a disguise. It looks like failure, rejection, or abandonment. Months later, you realize it redirected your life towards something far greater. The job you lost forced you to discover your true abilities. The friendship that ended protected you from deeper betrayal. The relationship that collapsed gave you the freedom to become someone stronger than you could have imagined. Time has a remarkable way of revealing that what felt like punishment was often preparation. There is tremendous power in emotional discipline. The person who betrayed you may expect anger. They may expect desperation. They may expect you to spend years trying to prove your value. Instead, choose silence. Choose growth. Choose excellence. Nothing unsettles those who underestimated you more than watching you build a meaningful life without their approval. Do not become obsessed with exposing every liar or confronting every deceiver. Life eventually reveals character more effectively than arguments ever could. People who consistently choose manipulation eventually lose trust. Those who repeatedly betray others eventually find themselves surrounded by suspicion. You do not need to become the judge of every wrongdoing. Your responsibility is to protect your own peace and continue moving forward. One of the greatest signs of maturity is the ability to separate the lesson from the emotion. Emotion fades with time. The lesson remains forever. If all you keep is the pain, then the betrayal defeated you twice. It hurt you once when it happened and continues hurting you every day afterward. But if you keep the lesson instead, the betrayal becomes an investment in your future wisdom. Look at your scars differently. They are not proof that you were weak. They are proof that you survived experiences that could have broken you. Every disappointment has strengthened your perception. Every lie has improved your ability to recognize honesty. Every betrayal has refined your standards. You no longer trust words so easily because you have learned to study actions. You no longer surrender your heart without observing someone's character over time. People who become truly powerful are rarely those who lived easy lives. They are often individuals who experience profound disappointment and refuse to let it poison their spirit. They transformed suffering into discipline, transformed rejection into ambition. They transformed betrayal into wisdom. They discovered that pain is temporary, but the strength developed through overcoming it can last a lifetime. One day, you will look back at the people who betrayed you with something unexpected. Not anger, not hatred, but gratitude. Not because what they did was right, but because they forced you to become someone you would never have become otherwise. They taught you to trust your instincts. They taught you to protect your peace. They taught you to value character above charm. Most importantly, taught you that your future should never depend on the loyalty of others, but on the strength of your own mind. That is when betrayal loses its power. It no longer feels like the chapter that destroyed your life. It becomes the chapter that awakened you. The wound becomes wisdom. The disappointment becomes direction. The pain becomes purpose. And the person who once thought they had broken you unknowingly became the reason you built a stronger, wiser, and more unshakable version of yourself.